What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another video. In this video, we're talking about a player that has demanded a trade recently, and could he be a Detroit Lion? Let's get this thing started. It's a player that we've talked about a little while ago, but this stuff has been coming right back up because apparently he has basically just demanded a trade from the Jacksonville Jaguars. You guys can go check out his Twitter. He said, the truth came out. He basically just wants out of Jacksonville, okay? He was franchise tagged by the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is Yannick Ngakoue. I'm thinking that's pretty good. Yannick Ngakoue, the 25-year-old defensive end or edge rusher, whatever you want to call him, from Jacksonville. Now, I believe the Jacksonville Jaguars do run a 4-3, so he's listed as their defensive end. But if he did come to Detroit Lions, he would play that jack role like Devon Kennard did and pretty much be a pure pass rusher, which is something that Detroit Lions could definitely use after being one of the worst teams when it came to getting sacks last season. So Yannick is a guy that, like I said before, we've talked about before because, there was a lot of trade rumors going around that, hey, maybe the Jaguars are trying to move him and, they just brought him back so they can move him. Well, now he's kind of just demanded a trade, and, the relationship there is very, very nasty. And the Jacksonville Jaguars really don't have a lot of leverage in the situation right now for two reasons. One reason, he's on the last year of his deal, and because of that, whoever trades for him is probably going to have to give him that big deal because they're not going to pay a lot of money just for a one-year rental on a 25-year-old edge rusher. So because of that, whoever brings him in are going to have to pay him a huge contract, which he has played well enough for. He's going to get a big, big deal. So someone has to have a lot of money that they can pay when he comes right in to give him a gigantic deal. Go along with that, he also has, like I said, demanded a trade. And since he's demanded that trade, there's really no way the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to keep him around. To me, it kind of reminds me of the Darius Slay situation over here. Now, there's a couple of different factors like age and stuff like that, but kind of similar at the same way. Darius Slay was on the last year of his deal, but since Darius Slay has really made it known that, hey, I want out, we knew we probably weren't going to keep him around anyways. And because of that, the Detroit Lions had to move him. They couldn't really keep him. You can't really keep a guy that doesn't want to be here at all, because if that happens, now you're just getting a guy that's not performing his best, and then it's just a complete mess. That's kind of what will happen with Yannick if the Jacksonville Jaguars keep him, in my opinion. This one even more so because this stuff is coming out before he's been traded that, hey, I want out. So I don't think the Jacksonville Jaguars are in a great situation here to get a nice return. They're kind of just probably going to take the best offer and move him because I don't see a way that they're going to try to bring him back or even keep him for the final year. So Yannick is a guy that Detroit Lions could be potentially targeting. So, as Detroit Lions fans, we've been looking at what the Lions have in available cap room for a while now. We've been looking at it and we've been saying, wow, why aren't the Lions making a splash? There's a couple of edge rushers out there. There's some corners. There's some old linemen. Why aren't the Lions going to make another big signing? Okay, we have some holes that we could still fill before the draft. We have the money. This is a year that's been put on as a playoff contender mandate, and yet the Lions aren't making that big splash, even though they have one of the highest cap rooms that are still available. So why aren't the Detroit Lions doing that? Well, I'm not trying to make speculation or say this is what they're doing, but I am saying the Lions do have some money to potentially make this happen if they wanted to. We know the Lions have about $30 million in cap space, depending on what source you look at. If you look at over the cap, I think it's salary cap calculator over the cap, they have like 30, 31, $32 million in cap space. It really depends on where you look at, but that's basically what it is right now. So just saying, for example, they have $30 million in cap space, it's potentially possible that the Lions could find a way to strike a deal with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, in this draft, the Detroit Lions, like I said, have traded away Darius Slay, so they now have 9 picks. And with those 9 picks, they could use those, potentially try to trade for a guy like Yannick. But like I mentioned before, if you trade for Yannick, you're probably going to have to extend him to a huge deal. So now the question is, do the Lions have that money? But there's more that goes into it than just do the Lions have the money. Do they have the money to also extend Kenny Golladay, who after the season, every pretty much wide receiver is going to be up on their contract, including Kenny Golladay, which we all know the Lions have to pay. Now, looking at market values that have been put out for these players, which we will talk about, Kenny Galladay's market value is around $13.7 million to about $15 million a year, and that's going to be like a 2-year deal. That's what's projected. So I'm going to go based off of projected contracts or projected extensions that he could get instead of just trying to make one up and go on what I feel is best. Just because I think that's a lot. That's just a more fair way to do it. We'll do that with Yannick as well to keep it simple. So that's what we'll look at, and that's really where he's projected, and it's projected to be a 2-year extension as a wide receiver. You just don't get all those huge extensions. So he's already locked up through 2020. So this isn't something that would affect us this season. His pay would come in 2021, 2022, which the Lions actually do have a pretty good amount of money set back to make those kind of moves. Now, the question is, can the Detroit Lions bring in Yannick and also extend Kenny Golladay? Technically, yes. If you look at the salary cap, the Lions could do it. Now, there's other moves that the Lions are going to have to make, but technically, they definitely could do it. Looking at Yannick this season, however, he will have an impact on this year's salary cap because you have to take on his salary cap, and that's why the Jaguars are in a great situation here when it comes to trading him. They don't have a lot of leverage. So Detroit Lions would have have to take on a pretty much a monster pay this season to bring him in. However, we know he's 25 years old. He's had 37.5 sacks in 4 years, no year less than 8 sacks. He's had 5 more sacks than Jadeveon Clowney in 2 less years. So keep that in mind. I mean, Jadeveon Clowney's asking for how much a year? $20 million a year. He's offered $17 million a year and declined it from the Miami Dolphins. So a guy like Yannick, that's, I think they're about the same age. I'm not exactly sure. I think they're about the same age, that has more production. I think that guy kind of makes a little bit more sense, right? He could make a little bit more sense for Detroit Lions instead of going to spend their money on a guy like Jadeveon Clowney. So the thought is, okay, can we make this happen? Well, it would be about 17.9, somewhere around there, $1 million this season, which Detroit Lions, if you figure they have $30 million, would drop them around to like $13 million remaining on their salary cap for this season. Now, what would the trade be? What would the Detroit Lions trade away? Because they still need money to have for the draft. Now, $13 million, I believe $13 million get you through the draft. I'll have to look at the numbers a little bit more because as you go back, they're worse less, the contracts are. So I believe 13 could get you through the draft. However, the thought is the Detroit Lions would trade away Jarrad Davis and a pick. Now, this would definitely be something that I would definitely do. I'm just going to be honest here. You know, I like Jarrad Davis's hard work, and I think he'd be fine for Patricia. If you could bring in Yannick by only giving a 1 pick and Jarrad Davis, I would definitely do that. Now, trading away Jarrad Davis would save us about $2 million in cap space, which would get us about to $15-16 million, which I think is more comfortable for Bob Quinn when it comes to before the draft and if anything comes up. So I could definitely see the Lions trying to offer Jarrad Davis, and hey, maybe those rumors of them shopping him could actually come back to be true, even though they've shut them down, if something like this is an option for the Detroit Lions. So the thought right now that I've seen, trade offers that the Lions would hypothetically give the Jacksonville Jaguars would be a 3rd round pick this year because they have 2 of them and Jarrad Davis. Now, I don't know if they would accept that personally. I would throw in a 5th round pick as well to make this happen, knowing that you have 2 of those. And I think a guy like Yannick would definitely open up your trade options because now you don't have to sit there and take Chase Young if you don't want to. You know, Yannick, Flowers, Danny Shelton, those guys would definitely be really good together. You got the edge rusher really figured out, and now you have to sign him to that extended deal, which would be a huge deal, by the way, which is like $17.1 million average for 5 years. Big deal. The Lions could do that and extend Kenny Golladay and still have some money remaining. It would definitely cost a lot. You guys can go through the numbers if you want. I have went through it. It would be possible because you got to keep in mind the Lions would have to make other signings as well, so they would still have to have a pretty good amount of money for next year's draft and next year's free agency. They could definitely do it and figure things out. The thing is, the Lions, not a lot of teams, but the Lions are one of those teams that financially could make this thing happen. The question is, do they want to make this thing happen? If you simply look at production, it doesn't make a lot of sense why you wouldn't try at least to offer here. I would give up a 3rd in Jarrad Davis for it personally. That's just my opinion. I know, like, we have brought in Reggie Ragland. Our linebacker group is very deep at this point already, and adding a guy like Yannick to get a lot of pressure would be a really good move. And if the Lions can financially do it in a season where they have to win some football games, I just think it could make a lot of sense. So let me know what you guys are thinking in the comments below. I wouldn't give away our 1st pick or anything like that. I think the 3rd pick in the draft is more valuable, but I could definitely see giving away a 3rd and a 5th in Davis. That's something I would offer. And if the Lions are willing to really go low in financials, and if they're willing to not have a lot of money for rainy days necessarily, they could make this thing happen. Do you want this thing to happen? That's the question. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Can't really argue with production in this case. He has a lot of it. So let's just see what happens. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.